Kicking off the list at number 1 is Warframe, a free-to-play third- and first-person hybrid shooter that has been consistently expanding since its launch and remains one of the most content-rich free games on Steam today. You play as a Tenno, an ancient warrior who pilots a biomechanical suit called a Warframe through a solar system teeming with faction warfare. The movement system is a standout feature, with wall running, bullet jumping, and melee flowing together in a way that makes traversal feel genuinely kinetic at all times. There are well over 50 Warframes to acquire, each with a distinct playstyle and ability set, and the customization depth extends to weapons, companions, and missions. The cooperative multiplayer structure means you can tackle content solo or team up for 4-player missions across a huge mission variety. Performance requirements are modest enough to run on low-end hardware while still delivering a visually impressive experience at lower settings. The developer regularly drops major updates that keep the game evolving. Coming in second is Valorant, Riot Games' tactical FPS that has become one of the dominant competitive shooters in the world since its launch. The core gameplay is a round-based 5 versus 5 format, where 2 teams alternate between planting and defusing a spike across a rotating map pool. Each agent brings a unique set of abilities that add a layer of strategic depth beyond pure shooting mechanics, creating team compositions that reward coordinated play. The gunplay itself is precise and mechanical, with a recoil system that rewards practice and consistent aim over time. The ranked ladder is well-structured, and the anti-cheat system is among the most aggressive in the genre. Visually, the game runs extremely well on low-end machines, thanks to its clean art style and performance-first optimization philosophy. Regular agent additions, map updates, and seasonal content drops keep the competitive meta shifting and the community actively engaged year-round. Number 3 is Apex Legends, the Battle Royale FPS from Respawn Entertainment that set a new standard for movement and character-based design in the genre when it launched. You drop onto a shrinking map as part of a 3-player squad, choosing from a roster of legends, each with passive, tactical, and ultimate abilities. The ping communication system revolutionized how squads coordinate without voice chat and remains one of the best in any multiplayer game. Movement mechanics, including sliding, climbing, and zipline traversal, give the game a pace that rewards spatial awareness and aggressive positioning. The gunplay is weighty and varied, with a loot-based loadout system that keeps each match feeling different. The game runs well on modest hardware at reduced settings, and the free-to-play model is generous in terms of gameplay content. Ranked mode provides a structured competitive experience, and the seasonal map rotations keep the long-term engagement strong. Fourth on the list is Counter-Strike 2, Valve's updated and fully rebuilt version of the most iconic tactical FPS franchise in PC gaming history. The transition from the previous entry brought responsive sub-tick server architecture and reworked visuals, while keeping the fundamental gameplay loop that defined competitive shooting for decades. 5 versus 5 bomb defusal maps remain the competitive backbone, and the skill ceiling is as high as it has ever been. Economy management, utility usage, and precise rifle mechanics combine into a game that rewards deep practice and team coordination equally. The community workshop and map pool keep non-competitive play fresh with a constant stream of community-created content. It runs on effectively any PC hardware made in the last decade, and the competitive ecosystem with professional esports support makes it one of the most legitimate ranked experiences available for free on Steam right now. Number 5 goes to Enlisted, a squad-based World War II FPS that puts you in command of a small squad of AI soldiers alongside your primary character across historically inspired battles. The scale of battles is impressive, with dozens of players and hundreds of AI units filling large maps that recreate major WW2 theaters of operation. You cycle through your squad members when you die, rather than responding fresh, which adds a tactical weight to engagement decisions throughout each match. Vehicle combat, including tanks, planes, and armored transports, is integrated directly into the infantry combat rather than separated into distinct modes. The progression system lets you upgrade soldiers, weapons, and squad compositions across multiple campaign branches. Visual fidelity is high for a free title, and the game runs surprisingly well on lower-spec hardware, given the number of units active on screen at any point. Regular updates add new maps, factions, and weapons to the historical roster. 6 is Crossfire, one of the longest-running free-to-play FPS titles on PC, and still one of the most played globally despite its age. The gameplay centers on keen-based objective modes, including Ghost Mode, where one team uses invisibility mechanics to create a distinct asymmetric dynamic. The low system requirements make it genuinely one of the most accessible FPS games available, and it remains one of the go-to options for players on very modest hardware setups. The weapon variety is solid, and the progression system rewards regular play, without requiring purchases to remain competitive in standard modes. Map design across the core game modes is functional and well-tested across years of community play. It lacks the visual ambition of newer titles, but compensates with reliability, a massive active player base, particularly in Asian markets, and a stability on low-end hardware that few free shooters can match in 2026. 7 brings Splitgate 2, the portal-based arena FPS that took the concept of combining Halo-style gunplay with player-placed portals and rebuilt it from the ground up. You create portals on designated wall surfaces mid-fight to reposition, flank enemies, and pull off shots that would be impossible in a conventional FPS framework. The portal mechanic transforms every map into a three-dimensional puzzle where spatial awareness becomes as important as aim. Multiple game modes, including Team Deathmatch, Ranked Play, and Capture variants, give the core mechanic room to express itself across different formats. The movement system is fast and fluid, and the learning curve rewards players who invest time in understanding the portal geometry of each map. Visual fidelity is strong, and the game is built with performance scalability in mind, making it accessible on lower-end systems while looking clean on higher spec rigs. Regular content updates have maintained a solid active player population since launch. Coming in at 8 is Ironsight, a military-themed free FPS with a near-future setting and a gameplay loop built around familiar, objective-based multiplayer modes. The gunplay is responsive, and the weapon customization system lets you tune your loadout through a deep modification tree, covering sights, barrels, grips, and attachments. Multiple PvP modes, including Team Deathmatch, Search and Destroy variants, and Domination rounds, keep the session variety solid across a healthy map pool. The movement includes a boost dash mechanic that adds a layer of mobility to the otherwise grounded tactical pacing. Performance optimization is strong, and the game holds consistent frame rates on lower-end hardware, which is one of its most practical advantages for the target audience. The visual style leans into a clean military aesthetic without demanding high-end GPU resources. Regular updates have maintained the weapon pool and map roster, and the game maintains an active ranked community. 9 goes to Ring of Elysium, a free-to-play battle royale FPS that distinguishes itself with a survival disaster setting where a deadly snowstorm closes in, rather than a standard shrinking circle mechanic. You choose a starting mobility tool, including a snowboard, grappling hook, or hang glider that creates different movement styles from the opening drop. The map design incorporates distinct terrain types, including mountain slopes, forests, and urban zones that interact meaningfully with the different mobility options available. The gunplay is solid, with realistic ballistics and a looting system that rewards early positioning and resource management. Squad and solo modes provide different pacing experiences within the same match structure. The aesthetic is clean and cold, with strong visual design across the snowy environments. System requirements are modest, making it one of the more visually accomplished free battle royales available on lower-end hardware, and it offers a meaningfully different experience from the dominant titles in the genre. 10 is Krunker, a browser-based free FPS that is also available through Steam and represents the absolute ceiling for what low-end PC gaming can access in the shooter genre. The blocky voxel art style is intentional, and the gameplay underneath it is surprisingly deep, with class-based loadouts, distinct movement mechanics per class, and a community map creation system that has produced thousands of playable levels. Competitive play is fast-paced and heavily skill-dependent, with a dedicated ranked community that takes the mechanics seriously despite the visual presentation. The game runs on virtually any hardware, including machines too underpowered to run any other FPS on this list, and the performance is consistently smooth across all settings. Custom game modes, community servers, and regular official updates keep the content fresh. It is genuinely fun once you look past the aesthetic, and the skill expression in movement and aim translates directly from more conventional shooters. 11 is Cuisine Royale, a battle royale FPS with a deliberately absurd premise where players scavenge kitchen equipment as armor and use a mix of modern and historical weapons across a tense shrinking zone format. The combination of authentic gunplay mechanics with comedy visual design creates a tone that is uniquely its own in the Battle Royale space. The realistic ballistic system, including bullet drop and penetration modeling, is carried over from the developer's military simulation background and sits in sharp contrast to the silly armor system in a way that actually works well. Map variety, vehicle use, and nighttime match options add tactical variety across sessions. The game performs well on lower-end hardware, and the free-to-play model does not gate core gameplay content behind purchases. It has since expanded and rebranded with additional content, while retaining the accessible entry point that made it popular with budget PC players. Session length is manageable, and the tone keeps frustration low. 12 lands on Islands of Nyne, a competitive arena battle royale FPS with a sci-fi theme built around high-skill gunplay and fast circle timing. The match structure is tight, with small player counts compared to most battle royales, which keeps the action density high and eliminates the slow early game lull common in the genre. The movement system is clean and responsive, and the weapon balance has been refined through community feedback over multiple update cycles. The sci-fi setting gives the map and weapon design a distinct visual flavor that differentiates it clearly from military-style competitors. Performance on lower-end systems is solid, and the minimalist visual approach supports smooth frame rates even on modest hardware. The competitive community is focused, and the ranked structure rewards consistent mechanical play rather than luck-based circle outcomes. It occupies a specific niche in the Battle Royale space and delivers on that niche with a level of polish that earns its spot on this list. 13 is Diabotical, a fast-paced arena FPS built by veterans of the competitive Quake scene and designed explicitly for players who want a pure skill expression shooter without Battle Royale or objective-based compromise. Movement includes strafe jumping and advanced traversal mechanics that reward deep practice and create a massive skill gap between newcomers and veteran players. Multiple arena modes, including deathmatch, duel, and team formats, give different competitive structures within the same high-speed framework. The egg-shaped robot aesthetic is distinctive, and the visual clarity prioritizes readability over spectacle, which is the right call for a game where reaction time determines outcomes. Weapon balance is tight, and the game has benefited from the developer's deep background in competitive shooter design. Performance requirements are extremely low, and the game runs buttery smooth on hardware that struggles with more visually demanding titles. For players who want to develop real mechanical skills, this is one of the best free options available. 14 brings Rogue Company, a tactical third and first-person hybrid shooter featuring a roster of operatives, each with unique abilities across objective-based PvP modes. The blend of precise gunplay with ability-driven team compositions creates a middle ground between a pure tactical shooter and a hero shooter. Multiple game modes, including Strikeout, Extraction, and Demolition variants, offer different pacing within the roster-based structure. Operative designs are varied, with each one offering genuinely different playstyles that reward specialization while maintaining team role flexibility. The visual presentation is stylized, and the performance optimization is strong across lower hardware configurations. Regular seasonal updates have brought new operatives, maps, and limited time modes to keep the content rotation active. The free-to-play model focuses cosmetic monetization and does not affect gameplay balance in ranked play. It fills a distinct space between the games around it on this list and executes its hybrid approach with consistent competence. 15 is War Thunder, a vehicular combat game that includes a dedicated first-person infantry component in its ground forces mode, alongside the tank and air combat it is best known for. The scale of combined arms battles, where infantry, tanks, and aircraft operate simultaneously across large maps, creates a scope unlike anything else in the free-to-play space. The infantry FPS experience is grounded and tactical, with realistic ballistics tied to the same simulation-leaning philosophy that defines the vehicle gameplay. The progression system is deep, and the content library, spanning World War II through modern-era equipment, is enormous. Visual quality is high, and while the system requirements are moderate, the performance scaling allows lower-end machines to run the game smoothly at reduced settings. The free-to-play model gives access to a substantial portion of the game without spending, and the active development team continues adding new vehicles, maps, and gameplay modes regularly. 16 goes to Destiny 2, Bungie's looter-shooter FPS that blends a rich science fantasy setting with tightly crafted gunplay across cooperative PvE content and competitive PvP modes.
The base game and a substantial portion of past expansion content is available free, giving new players an enormous amount of content to engage with before any purchase decision. The gunplay is among the best feeling in the genre, with each weapon archetype having distinct handling characteristics that reward matching weapon choice to encounter type. The class system, with Titan, Hunter, and Warlock, providing meaningfully different mobility and ability options. Raid content represents some of the most demanding and creative cooperative PvE design available in any free shooter. PvP modes in the Crucible offer competitive and casual options. Performance on lower-end hardware is acceptable at reduced settings, and the game's strong ongoing community provides a reliable multiplayer population across all modes. 17 is The Finals, a competitive team-based FPS from Embark Studios that launched with one of the most technically impressive destruction engines ever put into a free-to-play game. Matches take place across hyper-stylized game show arenas where almost every structural element can be destroyed, creating a dynamic environment that shifts moment to moment based on how players engage with the space. 3 classes with distinct ability sets and weapon pools create team compositions that complement each other across the cash-out objective format. The environmental destruction is not cosmetic, but mechanically meaningful, letting players create new angles, eliminate cover, and reshape entire sections of the map during a single engagement. Performance is optimized well enough to deliver solid frame rates on mid-range hardware, and lower settings scale the visual fidelity without gutting the core gameplay experience. Regular seasonal updates maintain a strong content cadence, and the competitive scene has grown steadily since launch. 18 is Hyperfront, a mobile-born tactical FPS from NetEase that made the jump to PC and delivers a surprisingly polished competitive shooter experience for free. The round-based 5 vs 5 structure will feel immediately familiar to players from the dominant tactical FPS genre, and the agent ability system follows a similar design philosophy. Map design is clean, and the visual clarity supports competitive play without sacrificing aesthetic quality. The gunplay is precise, and the recoil patterns reward practice in a way that creates real mechanical progression over time. Performance on low-end hardware is one of the game's strongest advantages, given its mobile origin, and the PC port maintains that accessibility. Ranked modes provide a structured competitive ladder, and the content update cadence has been consistent since the PC launch. For players wanting a tactical FPS alternative to the dominant titles in the space, it represents a competent and free option with a growing community.
19 is Paladins, Hi-Res Studios' free-to-play hero shooter FPS that has been running and updating since 2018 and represents one of the most established alternatives in the genre. The roster of champions, each with unique ability sets, spans tanks, damage dealers, supports, and flankers, creating a deep team composition meta that rewards coordination. Card-based loadout customization lets you modify how your champion's abilities function, adding a layer of personal expression beyond cosmetic choices. Multiple game modes, including Siege, Onslaught, and Team Deathmatch, keep the session variety strong across different playstyle preferences. The visual style is colorful, and the performance optimization is strong, with the game running smoothly on hardware that cannot handle more demanding shooters. The free-to-play model gives access to a rotating champion selection and all maps without purchase, and the full roster is unlockable through gameplay currency. Regular seasonal updates continue expanding the champion pool and map roster. 20 brings Roblox into the list as a platform that hosts numerous high-quality FPS experiences for free that run on essentially any hardware. Titles built within Roblox, including Arsenal, Phantom Forces, and Bad Business, deliver genuinely competitive FPS gameplay with mechanics that match or exceed dedicated standalone free shooters. Arsenal, in particular, is a gun game-style experience with a substantial active player base and fast-paced mechanics that reward quick adaptation. Phantom Forces offers a more tactical military FPS experience with detailed weapon customization and map variety across game modes. The platform itself requires minimal system resources, and the FPS games built within it inherit that low-end accessibility completely. Regular community-driven updates to individual games within the platform mean content stays fresh. For players on the absolute lowest-end hardware available, this is one of the most reliable access points to competitive FPS gameplay available through Steam. 21 is Gunfire Reborn, a roguelite FPS with RPG progression that blends first-person shooting with procedurally generated runs, elemental weapon builds, and a colorful, stylized art style that keeps every session feeling fresh.
You choose a hero character with unique passive abilities and build a weapon loadout through a randomly generated upgrade system across escalating challenge stages. The weapon variety is exceptional, with each run offering different combinations of elemental attributes, inscriptions, and lucky shot mechanics that create wildly different playstyles per attempt. Cooperative play for up to 4 players adds a team-building dimension to the roguelite structure, and the difficulty scales appropriately for group compositions. Performance requirements are low, and the visual style supports smooth frame rates on modest hardware throughout the entire game. Ascension upgrades and reincarnation progression systems give long-term goals beyond individual run completion. It is one of the most satisfying budget FPS experiences available and rewards patience with the upgrade systems.
22 is Shadowgun Legends, a mobile-origin sci-fi FPS looter shooter that brought its complete package to PC through Steam, with all content accessible for free. The cooperative PvE campaign involves fighting alien threats across a galaxy-spanning conflict, with loot drops, weapon crafting, and character progression driving the session-to-session loop. The visual quality is strong for a free title, and the art direction leans into a colorful space marine aesthetic with solid enemy and environment design throughout. PvP modes complement the PvE content, and the shared hub world creates a social dimension uncommon in free shooters. Weapon and armor build variety is deep enough to support multiple viable playstyles, and the gear progression gives long-term goals across the content library. Performance on lower-end hardware is solid, reflecting the mobile optimization heritage, and the PC version runs well even on machines with limited resources. The free-to-play model focuses on cosmetic content and does not gate story or mission content. 23 is Farlight 84, a post-apocalyptic battle royale FPS that incorporates jetpack movement and vehicle combat alongside the standard shrinking zone format to create a more vertical and mobile version of the genre. Unique hero characters with distinct abilities add a roster-based layer to the battle royale structure, and the combined movement options create fights that play out across multiple vertical levels of the environment. Vehicle customization and combat add a War Thunder flavor to the mid-match traversal and engagement options. The visual style is bright and detailed without demanding high-end hardware, and the performance optimization maintains stable frame rates on lower-spec systems. Regular season updates add new characters, weapons, and limited time modes to maintain the content rotation. The jetpack movement specifically sets it apart from the crowded battle royale space and rewards players who master the three-dimensional mobility options over those who play it as a flat ground-based shooter. 24 is Combat Master, a fast-paced free FPS built explicitly for low-end hardware that delivers a core competitive shooting experience across multiple modes without requiring significant system resources. The movement is fluid and includes wall running and slide mechanics that add a momentum-based dimension to the gunplay. Multiple modes, including Team Deathmatch, Search and Destroy, and Battle Royale variants, give different pacing options within the same lightweight package. The weapon pool is solid, with standard automatic rifles, sniper options, and close-range builds covering the usual competitive loadout archetypes. Visual presentation is clean and functional, and the performance on very low-end hardware is the game's primary selling point, consistently delivering smooth play on machines that struggle with every other title on this list. The active community has grown steadily since launch, and the development team maintains a regular update schedule. For the absolute lowest hardware tier, this is one of the most reliable free FPS options available today. Closing out the list at 25 is Robocraft, a free FPS that layers a unique vehicle construction system on top of its shooter foundation. You build your own combat machine from modular blocks and weapon components, then take it into battle against other player-constructed robots across objective-based PvP modes. The construction system is deep enough to support everything from fast, light scouts to heavily armored ground vehicles and flying platforms. Learning to build efficiently is as much a part of the skill expression as shooting accurately during matches. The visual variety created by player construction means no two matches look exactly alike, and the creative community has produced designs that push the system to its limits. Performance is light, and the game runs comfortably on low-end hardware, given its voxel-based construction aesthetic. It fills a completely unique space in the free FPS landscape, and for players who enjoy building as much as shooting, it represents one of the most creative free offerings on Steam.